A couple of things that I want to try to run through as quickly as possible. Are you familiar with NOAA?
NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration?
Yes.
Yes.
And out of curiosity, you obviously knew what NOAA stood for. When we are trying to prepare for these disasters as they are impending, do you rely on information that you receive from them in getting prepared for a potential disaster?
NOAA is a critical partner of FEMA's, whether it's through their National Hurricane Center to give us forecasts for where hurricanes and the strength of hurricanes are going to hit, or the National Water Center that helps us understand what the flooding impacts are going to be, or the Severe Weather Center that talks about tornado forecasts. All of this is important to make sure that, one, we can inform individuals that are in harm's way, but also help us prepare and pre-position our resources to support any immediate response needs.
Thank you for that. So you'd agree with me that any administration that would decide that it wants to get rid of NOAA, that would probably make your job that much more difficult?
Without the scientific data that we get from NOAA to help us make decisions and warn the public, it would make that job more difficult.
Okay, I want to talk about money, and I want to talk about it a lot here in a minute. Listen, we had a vote that was right before these terrible hurricanes that we've been talking about, Milton and Helene, came in. And in that particular vote, we had an opportunity to decide how much funding was going to go to FEMA. And it is my understanding that on this committee, we had a few members that decided that they were not going to vote in support of that funding. I don't know how closely you follow, but we had a number of members who actually served not only on this committee, but they serve in states that have been mentioned, such as Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia.
Republicans are notorious for taking credit for bills that they voted against, but now that they got the House, Senate, and the presidency, it's a little bit more difficult for them to do that.
It's my understanding that as of November 13th, FEMA has delivered over 16 million meals, over 18 million liters of water, over 3,000 rolls of blue roof sheeting, over 700,000 gallons of fuel, and additionally, FEMA has delivered over 2,000 tractor-trailer deliveries containing critical supplies. Do you have any reason to have any discrepancies about those numbers?
No.
In addition to that, it's my understanding, you're right, that over 671,000 households impacted by Hurricane Helene have received over $503 million from FEMA's Serious Needs Program, and over 218,000 households impacted by Hurricane Milton have received over $145 million. Yet and still, we had members on this committee, it looks like we had, there were 82 members that opposed the bill to fund when we knew that this was coming, thanks to NOAA, and 19 of the 26 Republicans on this oversight committee voted against the bill to keep FEMA funded, and 9 are in states that were directly hit. I don't understand why we come in and pretend that we have all these issues with your agency, and I thank you for your service, when you don't want to fund it. You can't complain about these issues, and when we're talking about the people that got skipped over, maybe or maybe not, ultimately, there was a concern about safety. Now, hopefully we will get the full investigation, but we know that it was Trump that was out there himself. He was putting out disinformation and misinformation to the extent that y'all had to set up an entire website to try to combat it. That was in disservice to all Americans, because when a hurricane hits, it doesn't go into the Democratic areas. It doesn't go to the independents. It doesn't go to the Republicans. It goes to American citizens. It is time for us to decide that we are going to work together and make sure that we can take care of people regardless of the decisions that they decide to make on who they want to put into the White House. And I thank you for your service, and I yield.
I know when you pass one of these laws, the transportation secretary gets calls, gets letters from members of Congress saying, can you please make sure this project in my district, in my town, gets funded? Have you been getting those requests as secretary from Republicans who voted against this?
All the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you just run out to a microphone every day you get
it's so
one of those?
tempting. It's so tempting. But, President Biden made it clear to this administration that we're not going to punish Americans, constituents, for the behavior of their
Oh,
representatives.
sure. No,
so
but I
we
mean,
do a
please
project
punish the
because it's a good
people who
project.
voted against it.
Well, we're certainly going to call them out.
Republicans always use Democratic spending packages as an opportunity to pretend to their constituents like they're, small government, anti-woke, and all that BS. But at the end of the day, their constituents desperately need help, whether it be in infrastructure or response to natural disasters. And now that Donald Trump has been elected a second time, of course he's going to pretend like Joe Biden's economy is his economy, just like he pretended Barack Obama's economy was his economy, until he, implements his tariffs and mass deportation plans and just general deregulation within the government, as he's putting, Linda McMahon as the head of the Department of Education, even though she's a former WWE executive and has no place being there. Oh, and don't forget, she gave Donald Trump $20 million and she bought the position. Matt Gaetz, Dr. Oz to be over Medicare and Medicaid. This absolutely ridiculous cartoon administration that at the end of the day will do nothing but be complete chaos. But that's what you voted for. So now let's see if Republicans will be able to deflect and blame anybody other than themselves for the destruction that lay ahead of us.